Be kind, not nice. Welcome to Tea at Taxevity, where you get insights from insiders, our many clients and friends. I'm Pramod Sharma, the actuary at Taxevity. I help people who care about sustainable financial independence harness the power of life and health insurance. Our guest today is Dr. Marcia Sirota. Marcia, what do you do when you're not being interviewed?
Well, I do a lot of different things. I'm a psychiatrist, so I have a psychotherapy practice. I do individual and group therapy, and I'm a writer. I've written 3 books right now. My 3rd book is just about to come out, and I'm a blogger, and I love exercise and music and dance, and I have a few pets, so I love animals as well.
You're involved in a lot of things,
Yes.
and on top of all of that, you were selected as a 2015 Wellness Champion.
That's right.
What does that mean? What is a wellness champion?
Well, a wellness champion is a business leader who is very interested in pursuing a life that is focused on wellness. And a wellness champion has to be somebody who is really involved in wellness in many different aspects, including nutrition, exercise, lifestyle, sleep, proactive care, mental stress relief, psychological wellness, community involvement, and personal relationships. So you really have to be engaged in all of these different areas to some extent.
Winning an award like that is quite an accomplishment then.
Well, it was really an honor to have won because when I looked at the other people, the other winners in the category, they were very successful CEOs of wonderful businesses. So I really felt very privileged to be in their presence and to be one of the winners of the award.
What strengths do you think the judges saw in you?
I think that what they saw in me is the capacity for perseverance and for maintaining a positive attitude despite certain challenges in my personal and professional life, and also that I bring a lot of humor to my day-to-day life and to my pursuit of wellness.
Okay, we'll hope for some smiling and laughing during this interview then.
Absolutely.
We're talking about the difference between nice and kind. Would you please define what you mean by nice?
For sure. I think that nice is about being a people pleaser and somebody who's looking for external approval. So the nice person is very externally driven for other people's perspective. And the nice person would want other people to look at them favorably and would be very afraid of disapproval and very concerned about conflict. And so the nice person would avoid confrontation, avoid conflict, try to curry favor, try to placate and please other people, and definitely be quite interested in seeking approval and positive regard. Whereas the kind person is a person with good self-esteem, confidence, and who has a lot of internal motivation to pursue their goals, and they are not that interested in how other people see them as long as they can interact in a positive way with other people, but they're not particularly focused on external approval or disapproval, and they're not worried about whether people disapprove of them or are upset with something they've done or said. So the kind person, it's more of an overflow of goodwill from their own internal self-esteem, whereas the nice person wants something from outside to come in.
On the surface, I thought the two words were synonyms, but now I can see that they are quite different.
Yes.
When did you start noticing the difference between the two words yourself?
Well, when I did my psychotherapy practice from the very beginning, I could start to see how there would be a lot of people in my practice who had behaviors that were approval seeking and who didn't have a lot of success in doing that. And I also saw how I operated in the world and how we were both focused on trying to be a good person, but we're going about it very differently. And I found that my way was much more successful. And so I started thinking about the distinction between being a nice person, like in my practice, and a kind person, which is what I try to embody in my own personal life and my work life as well.
What makes someone nice or kind?
Well, if you imagine a person growing up in a childhood where they're getting all the approval and the nurturing and the protection that they need from their parents and from their community, and they grow up with good self-esteem, they grow up with self-love, they grow up feeling safe, secure, comfortable. That person would be a kind person because they are filled with positive self-regard and they've internalized all the unconditional regard from their family and their community, and that person would be emanating a positive attitude of kindness, whereas the nice person sadly would be growing up in an environment where they're not getting their needs met, where their family of origin and their community might be more negative toward them, more neglectful, so they're not being validated, they're not being sufficiently protected, they're not being affirmed, and so they're going to grow up with unmet needs for affirmation and protection and love, and unhealed wounds of bad things that might have happened to them. And so they grow up very focused externally on approval and regard from others. And so that person would be seeking approval from others and seeking external sources of healing and sources of self-validation. So that self-validation that they're going to get is going to be coming from other people, whereas the kind person feels internally validated, and so they're not looking for that from others.
Mm-hmm. Can you tell us more about the drawbacks of being nice?
Absolutely. The problem when you are looking outside of yourself for other people's approval is that you keep pursuing it, but it doesn't really work, because the more that you get into being a nice person, the more you see that it's not satisfactory, and people start to notice that you're very desperate and you're very needy, and they start to be disrespectful. And so the nicer you are, the more people can be even contemptuous toward you, and you start feeling upset, and then you try even harder to be nice. And so it creates this vicious circle that the more you're nice, the more people disrespect you, and the more they exploit you because they see that they can take advantage, and so you're more disrespected, and then you try even harder. And it's really this self-fulfilling prophecy that as nice as you are, the other people are going to be more disrespectful and more exploitative. So it ultimately backfires.
It doesn't seem fair that this should happen, because you're doing all of these positive things, but at the same time other people are taking advantage of that.
Well, it's because we perceive things of each other on a more unconscious level. So when somebody is being a nice person and a pleaser and a placater, other people can perceive, even in ways that they might not be conscious of, that this person is very needy and desperate for their approval. And there's some mechanism in our psyche that makes us feel more contemptuous and disrespectful of someone who is needy. I guess we're all a little bit uncomfortable with our own needs and with our own neediness, our own weakness within. So when we see someone else being weak and needy, we feel contemptuous of them because we're probably a little uncomfortable and contemptuous toward our own personal neediness. So these nice people tend to try to curry favor, but they actually foster contempt and exploitation from others, because either the person is going to be contemptuous and dismissive, or they're going to be contemptuous and see the nice person as someone to take advantage of. So that's why being nice and approval seeking is actually going to backfire on you, because people perceive that you're weak and needy.
Okay, can you tell us more about the advantages of being kind?
For sure. So when you're a kind person, you're coming from a sense of confidence and fullness. It's more like an abundance mentality versus the nice person who's coming from a scarcity mentality, where the scarcity is a scarcity of self-worth, whereas the kind person is abundantly filled with self-worth. And so they're walking around in life being very pleasant, very agreeable, very kind and generous, and people respect them because they perceive on that same unconscious level that this is a person with confidence, this is a person with good self-worth, good self-esteem. And so this person is not mistreated, not exploited, because they are seen as someone who is strong. And the other thing about being kind is kindness always comes with good boundaries and a sense of being able to say no when people push too hard or try to pull too hard. So when people perceive the kind person as having good boundaries and being able to say no, they also respect them more. And so paradoxically, the harder the nice person tries to please, the less they're respected, whereas the more the kind person is able to stand their ground and set good limits and be able to have self-respect, the more other people will respect them. So the advantage of being kind is that they get a lot more self-respect, and they're also a lot happier because they're taking care of themselves, and so they're less irritated and annoyed by the way other people might be trying to treat them.
And what do kind people do about the haters?
Well, in the world, when you're going about your business and doing your thing and you're speaking your truth, because the other advantage of being kind is that you get to be authentic, because the nice person is trying to please, so they're trying to become what other people want them to be, and so they're thinking they're going to avoid the haters because they're chameleons. They're going to try to find out what other people want them to be and be it. Whereas the kind person is going to be genuinely themselves and authentic and, to thine own self be true. So they may find that some people don't like them. Maybe some people are resentful or jealous of them because they're confident and they're able to be themselves. Well, the thing about being kind is that you're not focused externally on other people's approval or disapproval. So it's more about recognizing that if there are haters, this is more about the other person. This is more of information that's important to know, because then the kind person can say, I don't want to associate with these people. These people are hating me because they're resentful or jealous of me, and this is more a reflection on who they are than anything about me. And so we can walk away from those kinds of people if we're practicing kindness, whereas we're very attached to disapproval when we're practicing niceness.
And what kind of difficulties can arise from being nice?
Well, when we are too nice, what happens is we get resentful eventually, because we're being nice, we're being nice, we're being nice, but the other people are around us are being disrespectful and exploitative. So it can foster a lot of disgruntled feelings, and these feelings can come out in either passive aggressive behavior. And when people are passive aggressive, what happens is the people around them get even more annoyed, and so it creates a vicious circle of being nice, then becoming angry, then being passive aggressive, and then other people getting angry at the nice person. Even the angry and resentful feelings can build up to the point of an explosion of anger, and then of course the people around the nice person can be very horrified, which will only then reinforce the nice person's belief that they should only be nice and should never be angry. And so you can see a vicious circle coming where they're nice, resentful, passive aggressive, nice, resentful, exploding, and then nice again. And the other thing that can happen when a person is trying too hard to be nice is they can try to push down their angry and hurt and resentful feelings about being mistreated and exploited by engaging in addictions, for example, alcohol abuse, drug abuse, or overeating, because they're trying to soothe themselves and comfort themselves from the displeasure of either not getting enough approval or getting the disapproval from others because they're being seen as needy and dependent and desperate. And so a person can make themselves so nice that they can turn fat or drunk or stoned because of their niceness. So it can be very disadvantageous to be a nice person.
What are the advantages of being kind?
Well, as opposed to the difficulties around being nice, the kind person, because they're able to be authentic and because they're able to speak their truth but in a kind manner, they're able to see that if somebody becomes defensive or hostile when they're speaking the truth, they know that they can simply dismiss this person and not take it personally. And the kind person, because they're being kind and overflowing from their own personal self-worth, they can be a very happy and cheerful person. They can trust themselves, that they know how to take care of themselves, they know how to say no if they need to say no, and not allow themselves to be mistreated or exploited. Then they tend to be very calm and very good-humored and very easygoing, and they can be a very cheerful and positive person. So whereas the nice person can be very irritable and disgruntled and cynical because they're angry and feel put upon, the kind person can feel really very happy and very connected to other people because they're being treated well and they trust themselves to take good care of themselves. So kind is definitely more advantageous than nice.
Mm-hmm. I can see that. Is there a way for a nice person to become a kind person?
Yes, fortunately, the nice person is not doomed to this vicious circle of being
Thank
nice.
goodness.
Absolutely. They don't have to be nice, mistreated, angry, and more nice. They can actually become a kind person. And since what it takes to be a kind person is good self-confidence and good self-esteem, the nice person can work on themselves and build their self-worth and build their self-esteem. And if they can't do it on their own, they can seek a coach or a counselor or a therapist and do their own personal work. And then having done their personal work, which might take some time, but of course it's worth it, then eventually they can let go of the need for external approval and start working on feeling better and better about themselves. And when they're able to feel better about themselves, they're able to be more genuine and more caring about others and more kind. And then they can trust themselves to take care of themselves. And that creates a positive spiral of kindness, good self-worth, better treatment from others, and then more kindness.
Mm-hmm. What's the best advantage of being kind?
I think the best advantage of being kind is that you do get to walk through life feeling really happy and really calm, because you do feel happy within yourself and you're happy in your interactions with others. And as opposed to being a nice person where you're always unhappy with yourself because you're never getting enough approval from others and you're getting a lot of disrespect and contempt. The kind person, it's a positive spiral of positive interactions with others, which feed your self-worth, and just a positive feeling of being able to be genuine and honest and open and easygoing and loving. So it's a good win-win situation, because being a kind person, you also get to give other people, you get to be generous, but you know that you're not going to be taken advantage of. So kind people get to be good for themselves and good for others. So it's a very advantageous position, I think.
What's your main message for the people watching today?
I think my main message is that there is a real distinction between being nice and being kind, and that the distinction lies in what is driving these two behaviors. Kindness is driven by an overflow of self-worth and self-love and good self-esteem, whereas niceness is driven by the need for external approval and the need to please others and be what you think they want you to be, as opposed to your authentic self. So if people want to be happier in their life and get along better with others, whether in the workplace or the personal life, they need to work on being kind as opposed to being nice.
What's the best way for people to reach you?
They can reach me through my website, which is www.marciasirotamd.com. And through that, they can find me on Twitter, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and on my Huffington Post blog as well.
Thanks very much for dropping by.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us for Tea at Taxevity. The Taxevity Insurance Advisory helps you understand insurance and bridges gaps in your coverage. There's no premium for peace of mind. How healthy is your insurance?